And welcome back to another episode of the Ologies. This is episode 10, WhiskeyOLOGY. I'm here
WhiskeyOLOgy.
I'm Ross, here with Clint and Tucker McCormick.
Tucker McCormick.
Yeah.
Notice who's not here? Lil Sweet.
Yeah, Bill's still out sick, got the
hurt his
sniffles.
back.
He hurt his back. Before that, it was the sniffles. But here today, we're talking about a very fascinating topic, whiskey. I love whiskey.
Whiskey.
I love whiskey too.
Hell, I drank some whiskey last night.
Whiskey helps you make great decisions or really bad ones, and there's a fine line in between, like hitting that.
Yeah.
So here's the disclaimer: when we talk about whiskeyology, wineology, beerology, one of the things we're talking about is being able to enjoy those things without excess. Like you can't enjoy what you're drinking if you're drunk. So this is not something we're not espousing the virtues of just getting smashed.
No, this is not binge drinking. This is the finer.
Yep, this is
points.
appreciating it, the art of it.
Yeah, you look at the guys having 1-2 fingers, you know. So anyway,
this is the Ron Swanson.
Now, not to say back in our younger days we didn't drink, Jack and Coke.
Well, that's why we issued that disclaimer. We put that disclaimer in there.
Not to say that we're above it. We're just not going to
glorify. Most of us bear the scars of
I
excess.
think we need to realize that Clint's fingers are a little bit bigger than
yeah,
the rest of
I
us.
still use the terminology fingers, yeah, but my fingers are bigger.
That's hilarious. So, Tucker, let me ask you this. Where, in your opinion, two questions. Where is the best whiskey, or bourbon in the world come from? Or we're going to talk about bourbon. And two, where does your favorite bourbon come from?
It's a good question. So, bourbon's not always from Kentucky, but it is an American whiskey with 51% corn. But it's typically some of the best stuff is out of Kentucky and across the river in Indiana. Makes quite a bit of it too. So I would probably still say we got some great guys catching up in like Colorado, Northwest, even here in Texas is catching up. But
so to be a bourbon, you just have to be in the U.S.
Yeah, U.S. 51% corn. There's like 7 criteria.
But you don't have to be Kentucky or
no.
Okay.
So do they make bourbon overseas?
Nope, but they'll make a same whiskey profile.
Right.
They can do everything the same, but it can't be called a bourbon.
So let me ask you this:
That's
why we don't use the metric system.
On Jack Daniels, when you look at the label, it says sour mash. Explain to me sour mash,
if you please.
Yeah, so that can be considered a bourbon, even though it's Tennessee. So sour mash means that when you take your mash, which is all the grains, and you ferment them,
right,
you can leave some of that in to then start the next mash as you put in new grains.
Okay.
A sour mash just means you're reusing the grains to keep a consistent flavor, where some people clean out the entire tank and start a new mash with the yeast and everything by itself.
It's like washing out your coffee cup. Like you're denying the next coffee the best of the last coffee.
Or a finely seasoned skillet or just like
right.
a frying pan.
That's exactly right.
Yeah. What I was going to say, I was going to ask you. Now what are they doing over there in Ireland?
Ireland is a lighter whiskey. They use triple pot stills. So we typically use a column still in America, both usually copper, sometimes stainless steel, but copper gives good flavor. So the Irish are focused there. And since they're triple distilling it, they're kind of refining it a little bit more as they go through each process. And then they're using used barrels instead of new oak barrels like in bourbons. That's why most Irish whiskeys are like lighter.
Are they
sweeter.
oak barrels?
Yep. Yeah. Almost everything is oak barrels just because that's the tightest barrel.
And the purposes of whiskey, using something that's used is not the cheaper way. It's the better way. Like I use stuff all the time, mostly because I'm cheap because I got daughters. I don't have any money.
Well, sure, but you're not a bourbon if you're using it has to be a new barrel for bourbon. So,
there we go.
If you get a different type of whiskey, you can call it an American whiskey to reuse barrels, and so that's a way to extend it for the second lifetime. And then after that, they're sending it over to Ireland, Scotland, sending it down for rum, some tequila.
But the barrels contribute. The barrels contribute to the flavoring and all that other stuff.
So they're reusing the same barrels, but here bourbon we use it one time and then it's done.
Then it has to be an American whiskey, or it goes down to Mexico for tequila, rum, Scotland.
Oh wow,
they
tequila.
all use used bourbon barrels as well, and so
I didn't know that.
Bourbon's one of the only whiskeys that is required to use a new charred oak barrel.
Now, this is off topic, but I read an article recently regarding, I believe it was tequila, and that if you look, there's a number on the tequila label, and that says it has a number on there, and that indicates where that was produced. And the thing of it is that there's only 4, 5, 6 of these places that produce. So with respect to vodka or tequila, you might be paying, for the what's the best one of the better tequilas, the Gold.
So añejos, extra añejos are like the darker aged ones.
Right, but a lot of those are the same. They're made by the same people, the same process, the same plant, and they're just packaged differently. Have you heard that before?
Yeah, so Casamigos that George Clooney does and
Right.
Terramana that The Rock does is all made at the same distillery.
Okay.
So they're
Dadgummit.
producing like
It's a
everything
conspiracy between The Rock and Clooney with his perfect
So it's all
hair.
pretty
I
much
know.
the same. It's just labeled differently.
So you have different types of agave plants.
Right,
So your blue
right.
agave, and then so there's all the growers that grow everything. They take about 6, 7, 8 years to grow typically.
Yeah. Whoa.
And then you distill it, and then you're barreling it, and you can use French oak or bourbon are the most common.
Just
I got
depends
you.
on if you want the oak to surrender or not.
Yeah.
Sorry.
God dang it.
Sorry.
Yeah. Clint Bruce, king of digression. That's interesting. And
Yeah,
it's
but
even.
it has to be made in Tequila, Mexico. So just like champagne is supposed to be made in,
In
Champagne,
France.
France.
Yeah.
Champagne.
In America, we still make and call stuff champagne, even though
It's
you can't
not
send it
necessarily.
into
Right.
into France.
Like I
and-
know
and-
for a fact they're making tequila in Arizona because one of the
Yeah.
numbers I looked up was in Arizona. And I'm like,
Yeah.
Arizona? Well, that's real interesting. What about the water? Water, they talk about the difference between Coke is when you're looking at the ingredients of Coke, and Coke sometimes tastes different city from city. It's due to the water. Do they deal with any of that in the spirits industry?
For sure. Yeah. I mean, in Kentucky, it's a big limestone basin, so you're getting that limestone filtration. Down the Texas Hill Country, you also have that, which is
Right.
creating some similarities. But then you get like Devil's River, which is using natural spring water from the Devil's River. But you're like Colorado.
Yeah, the Devil's Rivers dudes came up here last year, and it was really cool to listen to the whole story of it. Like,
Yeah.
it's,
Yeah, but I mean, the first year they sold like 16,000 cases or something like that, and they're just building a distillery now, so they have an incredible machine to push whiskey out.
Yeah.
But they're
Wow.
sourcing almost everything, finishing it in the Texas River, and they're good. So
What
it's awesome.
what do you have you heard of Conor McGregor's? What is it? Proper
12.
12. What do you,
Yeah.
have you had that?
Yeah, I'm
Be
not
careful.
as big of a fan of it.
he'll come
but,
over here and try to fight you,
Oh, he'll
and
he'll
I
beat
might
me
not be
for
able to
sure,
help you.
but
I might
yeah.
not be able to.
Well, all three
Yeah.
of us, you figure.
Maybe he's
I
quick.
don't know.
He's a quick little
But
guy.
50.
I mean, he's one of those other cases, just like Devil's River, that's created an awesome brand that's like gotten.
He
huge
has done that,
popularity.
for
Yeah,
sure.
and that's what I was gonna say. It's just
Yeah.
the fact that Conor McGregor's tied to it. And actually, I read something recently that it's not terrible, and
No,
that's kind of
no,
a
no.
compliment in a sense. It's someone that just
Especially if you're new.
well,
if you're breaking into
if-
something that's established, I mean,
right. And my question is, did he just go in and buy a bunch of barrels because those are aged for a while?
Yeah, and so that's what a lot of people do starting out is there's a ton of stuff just sitting and aging that people are able to sell, and most new brands are doing that versus getting the distillery. It's a huge, long process. Where in Ireland, you need 3-5 years to
But
age.
aging is a process, though. It's not like, hey, it's just inventoried in the warehouse, not doing anything. It's like, hey, in the process of aging all this, people can acquire it.
Yeah,
then
and so there's
purchase-
big
okay,
guys like
got it.
Great Northern Distiller in
Got it.
Ireland is where he got most of it, but there's MGP here, there's Alberta and Canada.
Okay.
So there's massive producers that make this that then people are able to create
Got
a brand.
it.
Then they finish it. So Angel's Envy was all purchased whiskey. They finished it in port barrels, and then it became kind of their new product, and they did incredibly well.
Port like wine?
Port, yeah.
Okay, gotcha. Because it's whiskey, right? It was bourbon. It had
So
to
that's
be.
one of those finishes where a double barrel is 2 whiskey barrels.
Right.
Where the finished whiskeys typically these days are like port and sherry or rum cask or other things that add like sweet notes and create a different flavor.
Yeah.
versus
We have to have
2
more
whiskeys.
episodes of this.
Yeah.
There's way more to this. Than I
Yeah.
know.
Oh, yeah.
And
So
plus,
many
we've gotten
flavors.
off on tequila and vodka a little bit. One more thing. Let me ask you this, because we're at 9 minutes, which is usually we do a few more minutes. But
Yeah.
what about? I've heard, because my sister's out in Arizona, but the agave cactus. One of those is, with respect to demand, there is going to be a shortage in the near future with respect to this specific type of tequila. Can you
Yeah, so
elaborate?
that kind of like blue agave, they were seeing that. They've kind of fixed production, so they're doing that. But because it takes 6-7 years,
Yeah.
they do have a lot of older inventory that's been sitting. So you get a rise of extra añejos and añejos that are coming out, and so those are gonna be really good. And those are fun brands. So, but yeah, everyone's just buying older stock instead, and you're seeing some of that happen. A
I
little more
gotcha.
expensive, but everyone's getting premium now, and
Yeah.
it doesn't necessarily mean it is.
Have you tried George Clooney's?
yeah, I think it's good.
He sold that for like $500 million or $1 billion.
lot.
$1 billion, yeah.
A lot.
So
Jeez,
$700 million immediately and $300 million earned out at the end of it.
Is that due to the quality or the name? George Clooney. Name. Okay.
Yeah. So yeah.
You know, Maynard has a wine.
Oh
has a
yeah,
grape farm.
absolutely, man.
Yeah.
It's in Arizona.
Yeah, and actually, from what I
Tell everybody who Maynard is.
Oh, sorry, from Tool, and he also is a. Yeah, he's a lead singer of Tool, A Perfect Circle, and then Pussifer, the other bands that he's with. But he takes that stuff very seriously. He had an episode on Joe Rogan, and he was talking about. He's like, I got to leave here and head down to the grape farm, and
I want to listen to Tool later.
Yeah, well, I'm from Fredericksburg, so there's not a lot of great wine, but you can source wine and do everything, grow your own. Yeah. And so it just depends how technical you want to get.
Fredericksburg is beautiful, though.
Mm-hmm.
Right. And it's funny, the rise of the New Zealand wines and the Australian and then Texas wines. I don't understand that because.
But you're a true Texan.
I am a true Texan. I tell you what. So we had a wine tasting at my house at our ranch, and we had some Texas wines in there. Those are just sweet, sweet, sweet. Are they covering up the fact that? And actually, let me stop there. I heard that all of those grapes, regardless of where they say they're coming from California, not necessarily grown here.
Well, some of them for sure. So California is one of the bigger regions, but Texas Panhandle and West Texas is growing a ton of grapes, and they're usually doing tasting rooms or other things in Fredericksburg. So we're getting a lot of pure Texas wine.
What's up with that, Ross?
And then you still get estate stuff in Fredericksburg, and there's people are growing a lot more grapes there.
Yeah,
but classically, one of the original Texas spirits was brandy, which you do out of grapes. So we were still making a lot of it, but you probably made brandy because it might not have been that great as wine. So
you cover it up a little bit.
My bride is Armenian, and Armenia is famous for its brandy.
Yeah,
and how mean and scary the older men look. Like my father-in-law, who terrified me. Looked like a mean Casey Kasem.
Casey Kasem, the radio personality.
Yeah, and he drove a Lincoln Tower car with Pirelli racing tires on it.
Oh my god!
And he would have listened to WhiskeyOLOgy, staring at me condescendingly the whole time.
This is all wrong.
Rightly so.
And that's the thing we
y'all have been right. He just would have made fun of anything I said.
Well, hey, look, this is Ross here with Clint and Tucker McCormick. Tucker, thank you. I really appreciate that. And we hope to have you back on.
No, I'd love to do that because, one of the things we're doing is, those new brands that are popping up, I just set up a new company called 99Proof Partners. So we're investing in those kind of craft distilleries to do and bring out new brands and cool opportunities like that because there's so many nuances.
Y'all are doing your company's doing small to mid cap acquisitions, right? Is that correct?
No, so we're doing venture growth investments.
Venture growth, okay.
It'll allow people to invest, 5, 25, 50, 100K into 10 brands over time, so you can create your own little portfolio,
right?
And then we'll oversee, manage, and add our expertise.
Sure. So it's not quite crowdfunding, but it's definitely accessible.
How long have y'all been around?
So we started in June.
Okay.
So it's been about 6 months of growing. We're putting 2 investments on the table right now. So
awesome.
It's been cool. One of them's an awesome Irish American whiskey. Another one's probably going to be in the Hill Country, and we're looking at that too.
Oh, amazing. I hope you have great success. Good luck with that. What was the name of the company again?
99Proof Partners.
And y'all are located here in Dallas?
Yep.
Good luck with you.
Thanks.
He'll be back.
All right, Tucker will be back. This is Ross. Again, check out in our bio, we got our Cash App and our Venmo. Please, if you can, donate. If not, don't. I don't want to be responsible for the demise of an American family not being able to pay their mortgage due to them investing in the ologies, but any donation would be appreciated. And until next time, guys, we appreciate y'all. We'll see you.
Bye-bye.